And welcome back to another episode of the Faithful Dogs podcast. We are going to go deep inside the Deshaun Watson decision, and soon we are going to be joined by NFL insider Benjamin Allbright. I am Tyler Johnson, joined by a full crew this afternoon. Our first afternoon show, Zach DeFranco, Jack Robinson, and Connor. How we doing, gentlemen?
Good.
Man, you got me off kilter, dude.
Yeah, it's different. This is different.
It really is. I'm pretty sure. I mean, besides the draft show, we obviously that was just an extra long show, but we've never done an afternoon show before. So this is definitely a little bit different for sure. But I mean, how's everyone feeling today? Again, it's a little different, but how's everyone doing?
It's
too
exciting. Quiet, man. It's too quiet.
Exciting.
It is exciting.
And just so everyone knows, this is not an April Fool's joke. It's just it's odd timing.
It's been a wild day for that. But yeah, we're going to be joined soon by NFL insider Benjamin Allbright. There's a lot we're going to get to. The Deshaun Watson decision, how that came about. We're going to get into Jarvis Landry, Jadeveon Clowney, Baker Mayfield, his situation, where that stands. Possibly also some draft talk too, and just going around the NFL a little bit. So if you guys have any questions for Ben, send them in the chat for us. We'll get to as many as we can. We'll have them on for about a half hour today. So we'll definitely get to as many as we can in that regard. But again, an afternoon show, it feels so much later in the day than what it is right now. This is just a really weird feeling for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Connor, how you feeling, man?
I have the stomach flu.
Okay.
I've been throwing up all day and all last night, so I'm good.
Oh, man. Okay.
That nervous, huh? It's crazy.
No. About to cut my AC on right now, matter of fact.
And Jack leaving early just to join us, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, man, you guys are ruining my workflow, man. This is messed up.
Messing with your pocketbook.
And we are joined now by NFL insider Benjamin Allbright. Ben, how you doing this morning?
Hey, sorry I'm a minute late, guys. I was trying to get back to the gym real quick, so I apologize.
No, you're good.
You're all good, man.
No, it's good. We appreciate you joining us, and happy April Fools. Before we start, do you have any fake Schefter news that you want to drop for us?
Fake Schefter news? Oh, man.
Yeah.
The Browns have cloned Joe Montana, and they're going to have a competition between him and Watson for the quarterback job.
Let's go.
Where's the love to Jacoby Brissett at right there? Come on.
Seriously, you know what? That's my bad, too. That's my bad.
It's all good. Well, again, Ben, we really appreciate it. We really want to get started here. Deshaun Watson, his decision, and really how he ended up becoming a member of the Cleveland Browns. If you could just walk us through that timeline, because it changed a lot in the span of just a few days before he made his decision.
Yeah, it was down to the three NFC South teams, in Cleveland. But Deshaun was telling his people he really didn't want to play in a cold weather city, and those people were telling people like us that stuff. And so, we kind of didn't think Cleveland was the front runner for that. And then, he, after everybody did their pitches, he straight up told Cleveland, hey, you guys are out. So he told them that. So, of course, that's what we're going to report, right? And so after that, they were getting the deal done. He told the Panthers they were eliminated because they wouldn't guarantee the last 2 years of the deal. And it was basically down to the Saints and Falcons, but the Saints were having trouble trying to get everything together the way they needed to in order to structure that deal the way they needed to structure it. But he was excited at the idea of playing with Michael Thomas, who he shares an agent with. And then it looked like the Falcons had the inside path. And so the Falcons they told Matt Ryan they were working on a deal to get Matt Ryan traded. AJ Terrell was going to be part of the deal to Houston. So they told him. And all this kind of stuff. And then last second, Cleveland, it's like that meme where the Undertaker just comes back up, comes out of here with except the Undertaker's got $250 million in his arms in guaranteed money. And Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam just unzipped and put it on the table, man. And, it was, you can't turn that down. It's a baseball contract, So I know the reporting out there is that Deshaun chose the Browns before the money. And there's truth to that in the sense that they were a finalist, but that is not actually, it's not true. That's PR. And it's the real truth is when they came through with the monetary requirements, that was it. I was actually on the phone with somebody from Atlanta as the news broke. And I can't say what they said here, but it would just be one giant beep. But they had not everybody from Atlanta apparently had been informed yet that he had chosen Cleveland. And so then they had to do a tap dance walking back to stuff with AJ Terrell, they got that smoothed out, but they did not get it smoothed out with Matt Ryan. They obviously traded the Colts and go from there. So that's the actual timeline. And me in there, I got a little cocky after he turned Cleveland down. So one of the things I'm going to do today before we end here, I've already made 3 of the donations. So the fourth one, I'm gonna let you guys pick the fourth charity that gets $1,000 donation there in Cleveland. So before we leave today, just remind me if you guys can pick it, and I'll have it done by the end of the day.
Awesome.
Awesome, man.
We really appreciate that. I want to go with Deshaun. He talked about his press conference, that a big part of it was football related. The Browns gave him the best chance to win. And really, Coach Kevin Stefanski had a plan for Deshaun going in that he really liked. Was football a big part of this decision and not just overall the money aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Just because I keep talking about the money doesn't mean it's the only thing, right? That was what sealed the deal. But the Cleveland had the best roster of the 4. Let's be honest. Carolina's roster is and by the time they made the trade to Houston, it was going to gut that roster further, especially with draft picks to replenish it. New Orleans roster is pretty good, especially defensively, but they still need some pieces on the offensive side. Atlanta's roster is, they need basically an offense.
Yeah.
And so Deshaun was going to have to be that. So Cleveland had the most talent ready to go. Now, as far as ability to win early, the AFC itself is loaded. So that's questionable. As far as having more football talent around him, that's for sure a clincher there, because I think it would be easier to win in the NFC, even in a division with Tom Brady. So, I think if you want to use the word win, you got to be careful and contextualize that. But I think in terms of overall talent and talent to win long term, Cleveland was obviously the answer.
So how do you think Andrew Berry got this deal done without including any core players too? Because like you said, AJ Terrell was involved in the Atlanta deal. We just give up picks, get to keep all our core players around Deshaun. So that's insane to me.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in voodoo apparently now. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't know how he did it. It was a masterstroke not having to bust up the roster and giving away the draft picks like that. It's still a hefty haul of draft picks, and you're gonna have to be pretty good in the middle rounds over the next 2 years in order to make sure you got the right replenishment and everything. But the roster for the Browns is already pretty stacked. So it's not like you're sitting there with any glaring holes and no way to replace it. So I don't know how he got that done in that manner, but there's an extra, tip of the cap for not having to give up key pieces.
Yeah. And Ben, after Deshaun basically told the Browns that they were out, a lot of people kind of moved on. They were starting to look at other things, and obviously it kind of came out of nowhere when he switched it, for at least for the average fan. But was there any sort of inkling or any sort of, rumors going around that he might be thinking about going back to the Browns as an option? Or was that just completely out of left field for everybody?
I'll tell you this. I was talking to one of your coaches at 4/16, the day before the deal was before he switched to Cleveland, and they were laughing at the idea that Deshaun was ever going to choose them. So your own coaches didn't believe it was going to happen at 4/16 Mountain Time, which would be 5/16 Cleveland time. 5/16 Central, 6/16 p.m. Cleveland time. At that point, they didn't believe that he was ever going to choose them. So, take that for what you will. We were kind of laughing about it and everything, because it's one of those things where he was bringing up the film. We were going over the tape back and forth in the DMs from Deshaun's game in Cleveland when he was with Houston, where it was an abject disaster. He threw for 100 yards. It was a terrible weather game, all that kind of stuff. And so we were kind of going through that and looking at it a little bit and chatting back and forth. And he was like, yeah, we were never going to get this dude. He was never going to come here to play in this kind of weather. Come on, So I'll say this: the group in the front office may have believed that, but your coaching staff, most of your coaching staff, can't speak for everybody. Most of your coaching staff did not believe that was going to happen.
Wow.
So Ben, as far as this contract goes, I know there's a lot of reporting right now about the owners meeting in Florida and teams and owners being super pissed off at the Browns for giving out $230 million fully guaranteed. How do you think that this changes the landscape of contracts, starting at the quarterback position? And do you think it's going to leak over into other positions as well?
Well, yes. I think that eventually it will. There'll be some top tier players at some other positions, like your Aaron Donalds of the world, that can get deals like that. Your average player is not going to get that.
Right.
Your average, your replacement level player is never going to get that. Your Andy Dalton's not going to get that, but star players are going to be able to get it. They are pissed, and the reason for that is because the Browns had an incredible amount of cap space thanks to the teardown, rebuild, and everything they've done over the last couple of years, and then building back up. Because they had an incredible amount of cap space, they're able to do this. Other teams like the flexibility at the quarterback position to be able to go 2 years and then restructure the quarterback, or convert money into bonuses and then move it forward. Right? If the contract's fully guaranteed, there's nothing to convert and move forward. There's no caponomics that you can do to kind of keep the roster moving forward. So teams are pissed. Like, they have to rethink the way that they're going to be doing their salary cap stuff from now on, because if you're giving fully guaranteed contracts out like Deshaun Watson and Kirk Cousins have, there's no way for you to utilize the quarterback position to move money around in order to make your roster better as you go forward. You're just set on that. You're going to have to figure it out with somebody else. And so there's an optical angle to that too. Quarterback giving up a little money or doing a little thing, converting some stuff always is kind of like comes across as a team first move, so there's like a PR component to that. No quarterback's going to have that now if they've got a guaranteed deal like that. Quarterback's just going to look like an asshole taking all the money, and you poorers work it out for yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And obviously, one of the big things about that $230 million guarantee that was so controversial is just the fact that obviously he still has those legal issues that have been following him for the past couple of years. And obviously, it's been one of the major questions that people have been giving to the Browns and especially to the NFL. And Roger Goodell recently, had his meeting where he stated that the league wasn't going to put him on the exempt list. And additionally, that the actual civil cases won't even really start until March of 2023. So obviously, if they don't want to put them on the exempt list, and a lot of the things about the player personnel or the player personal conduct standards would be impacted by those civil cases being pushed back. Is there a chance that Deshaun doesn't actually see a suspension this year, or what do you think on that front?
Well, let's start with the exempt list. They can't put him on the exempt list because there's no criminal charge. So thanks to the new CBA, like that's the new collective bargaining agreement sort of curtailed Roger Goodell's powers and some of that kind of stuff. So that's why that it's not that they weren't going to, it's that they can't. In terms of a suspension, it's very possible. The NFL has its own independent investigation going on. They are notoriously slow with those. So I don't know where that stands. But they have their own investigation. It's possible he could see a suspension this year. I kind of, here's the other part of this with the civil cases. Deshaun was very, very, very close to being traded to Miami at the trade deadline last year. Very close. 18 of the civil cases had agreed to a settlement of $120,000 a piece with a non-disclosure, non-talk about agreements. I've actually got copies of those somewhere, but they were offered that. 18 of them agreed to it. The rest did not. So that should give you an idea of probably where the civil cases are going to go in the end. And I would suspect that you'll see a small suspension for Deshaun, and by small, I mean relative, 4 to 6 games. And I don't know if that would occur this year or next year. That's guesswork on my part based on what I know about the case and what I know about who will settle and who definitely won't.
And do you think the Browns might push him to settle just to kind of get this out of the way because they know that it's going to be a long process?
Well, Miami pushed it, encouraged him strongly, however you want to phrase that, to settle. I imagine Cleveland will try and say, and the more that settle with him from an optics standpoint, the better it looks. That's less things that come out in court. That's less detail that gets out into the public sphere. I don't know if Deshaun Watson sexually assaulted those women. I want to believe women and everything else and all that. I don't know that he did or didn't. I just know that dude has a weird problem with way too many massage therapists and the places he gets them. And it's kind of weird. And you don't want those details out in public. I mean, if you're a dude with you got that your kink, you don't want that out in public, period. Even if you're innocent for sexual assault stuff. So I would suggest that from the Brown side of the house, you're probably saying, look, the more of these women that settle, the better. That's fewer details that get out in court, and the better you look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
by the way, you've got $250 million now to do that with. So,
Yeah. But to kind of change the viewpoint here, lately there's been a lot of smoke about a possible Jarvis Landry extension. And now, obviously, the rumor came out that he wanted $20 million a year. He got rid of his agent from Clutch Sports. Where do you think that sits with a return to Cleveland with Jarvis Landry?
I think it's possible. I would put it more likely than not, but I wouldn't term it like probable or done or any of that kind of stuff. I'd say, 65-35 kind of thing. I think he wants to be back. I think they want him back. I know they don't want him back at $20 million a year. Nobody wants that. So firing your agent isn't going to suddenly magically make you worth $20 million a year. Jarvis Landry has a very unique niche. He's not a burn you deep guy. He's kind of like Wes Welker in that he'll nickel and dime you. He's good off the slant, good off the drag. You put the ball in his hands, let him create after the catch. Kind of guy. He's always been that guy, and it's almost like an extension of the run game. And so if you've got a burner, and when they go sign Will Fuller eventually, which they are going to do, then that's Deshaun's buddy. So. Once they have Fuller and Cooper, then all of a sudden Landry's role becomes crystallized. You know what I mean? And so like it can be the third down clutch guy, that kind of thing, can be the guy that he is. His problem is that in his mind, and in a lot of receivers, because it's kind of a deep position, everybody feels like they're the best of all time, the greatest of all time. I'm sure at some point Jabbar Gaffney thought he was the best of all time. You know what I mean? Like it's just an intrinsic trait to receivers. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, like getting market value, and you guys can, while everybody in the league is flipping off the Browns for paying Deshaun Watson, you guys can flip off the Jags for paying Christian Kirk like that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another story for another time. But so obviously Jeremy Fowler reported that the Browns are now zeroing in on Jadeveon Clowney, and Jadeveon Clowney's niche is let me wait as long as possible. Do you think that's getting done, or do you think he could be down to other teams as well?
Yeah, it was one of those things I talked to my boy Nathan Zagura about at the Combine. I knew you guys would get Njoku, but I didn't know if Clowney was going to come back or if he's going to do his usual weighted out stunt, and he's kind of doing the weighted out thing. I think he wants back now because I think he believes they've got the quarterback to win if he's eligible to play and all that. So I think he wants back now, but he's also understands that he's getting close to the end as far as that kind of stuff goes. And he knows that he's got to maximize his dollar amount. And he's always been savvy with the business angle as far as that kind of stuff goes. So if they are zeroing in on that and getting it done, then, and by the way, I'm not even reading Twitter today because it's paper one, but
exactly.
If they are zeroing in on that, then good. There's mutual interest in coming back. It's just a question of the price point.
Okay. Yeah. And a big part, Ben, that as a fan base, Cleveland Browns fans are impatient. I mean, we've obviously made big trades, Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, but the free agent signings, Taven Bryan, Ethan Posick, the center from Seattle, we haven't made a lot of free agent signings so far. And so a lot of fans are kind of getting antsy, wondering why the market's so quiet and whatnot. So who are some names maybe in free agency or even possible trade candidates, since Andrew Berry's made 3 trades already, that the Browns could possibly consider?
Well, let's back up a minute. See, you guys in Cleveland are used to being active in the free agent market because that's what loser teams do. You don't want to be active in the free agent market, all right? Like you guys have started to build that winning culture. You don't want it. You want it to be quiet. The reason you don't want it to be active in free agency is because you're playing A+ money for B+ talent. Like you want to draft and develop and then pay your own guys, internally before they hit the market. And so I think that would be the first thing I would say to Cleveland fans is the fact that you're quiet means that your front office thinks you finally have a winner. And so like that, and it's been that way for 2 years now. So you guys just aren't used to winning. That's the other part of it. You got to develop that winning culture as a fan base too. There are some guys out there. I think you might see a defensive tackle. I think you might see another safety or corner. I think there's some secondary stuff. And maybe a linebacker. But I think most of it's on the defensive side. You may see a receiver, like I talked about, Will Fuller. As far as that goes. But beyond that, the team doesn't have a lot of needs. Like, do you really want them spending money for guys that are going to ride the pine? If you're not, the front office. The fans all want names, like here in Denver, it's so funny because everybody's like, are we getting Bobby Wagner? Are we getting Tyrann Mathieu? I'm like, no, why?
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing is like everybody looks for these superstar names or names that they feel like, they know, and they're like, we need to pursue them. And in front offices, the slogan is, games, not names, right? Guys that are going to give you games. That's what I'm paying for. I'm paying for reps, till I can draft a guy to fill that spot. So don't be too keen on chasing free agents that are you got to pay more than they're worth at this point. Draft and develop. That's where your eyes should be. And I know, you're missing the early round picks. We are too here in Denver, thanks to the Russ Wilson trade. But that's where your attention needs to be, those mid-round draft picks.
Quick, a follow-up on that. Real quick, Zach. One of the names you mentioned on the defensive side of the ball, and you mentioned defensive line, a guy who's still out there, and the Browns have been addressing the defensive line lately through 1-year deals. Akeem Hicks from the Bears, could he be? I've seen Evan Massey had reported it was a couple weeks ago the Browns were showing interest in Akeem Hicks. Is he someone that they would have some interest in?
Maybe. I'm not 100% sure he's the best fit there. He's more of a 34 guy. He's a little bit more like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like the Chargers already got Joseph Day. Otherwise, I think they'd be in on it. So, it's possible, but I would not term that probable.
Okay.
And going back to the draft, obviously, like you said, we don't have these early round picks. With pick 44, do you see us staying there with Andrew Berry? Is there a possible David Njoku JOK situation where we trade back up to get a guy? Where do you see the Browns landing at 44?
Well, I mean, you could go any which direction. I think if you get to, if you start getting into the 25 plus and you see somebody you had, as a top 10 pick, then you got to be like, okay, how do I go get that?
Yeah.
What's his name? The safety at the top of the draft, whose name's blanking. I'm blanking on right now. Hamilton. He's going to slip a little in this draft, right? How far, I don't know, but he's going to slip. So for me, like if that dude is all of a sudden sitting there at 25, like I think you got to do that. Like I think you got to make that. So that's one of those things where I'm like, everything is relative. Yeah, they can move up, but I think a lot of that is being reactive to the board. It's just kind of like after you stack your board horizontally and vertically, and then you're sitting there looking and you're saying, okay, as you're watching the draft unfold and something doesn't fit right, like JOK falling, like then you got to be like, okay, what do I got to do to make that happen? And then go from there. I don't think that that's the plan. But I think that if something like that happens, you have to have the ability to be reactive. And I know that the Browns are one of those teams.
Yeah. And what position do you think they are? Do you think they'd be most likely to address? Because obviously there's a lot of issues with our inside defensive line. We don't know if Jadeveon Clowney's coming back, and obviously right now we have Amari Cooper, and then there's a huge gap, and then we have Donovan Peoples-Jones and a couple of other guys. So what do you think is really like the biggest position to need in the draft for the Browns?
Well, I think you get it right there. I think receiver is right now, but I expect them to sign. Like I said, I expect them to sign, so that may change between now and then. I think you just got to look at places where you have short-term free agent signings sitting in the starting role, and if you've got that, because their philosophy is draft and develop. It is internal cost control, right? So the easy way to predict it is to just sit there and look for who is sitting here on a 2-year free agent deal. That will be gone, and or it could be a longer deal, but it's effectively a 2-year deal. And who's sitting here in a 2-year free agent deal that within in a starting role, and we don't have somebody behind them that's starting caliber player, and that's where you need to be looking. I mean, it's just that simple. I know that's over reductive, but it really is that simple.
Mm-hmm.
So kicker at 44, no matter what.
Obviously.
Exactly. Yeah.
Obviously.
So,
Log snapper.
So Ben, about Baker Mayfield, like I've seen a lot of speculation on Twitter. Like, how is he viewed in NFL circles right now? I mean, is it as bad as the Browns would have to eat a lot of his contract and give up picks for someone to take him?
I think that people around the league know that they've got the Browns in a squeeze on Baker. It's not that bad. It's just like everybody knows, like, the Panthers aren't going to trade for him because he and McAdoo famously had that spat before the draft when he was drafted. The Seahawks, I don't think that the Seahawks want to go that way. I think the Seahawks actually want to roll with Drew Lock, and then the next year, like either Drew becomes the guy, or next year they're drafting somebody at the top, and they've got the extra picks from the Broncos to be able to do it. So I where's he going to go? The one team that he wants to go to, the Browns will never trade him to, and that's the Steelers. So, I think that what you have to do is, if you're Baker, you're telling everybody, hey, don't trade for me. Let make them cut me, and then when they cut me, I'll just come. That way, you're not giving up assets, and I'll come to you on a discounted deal. So the Browns are paying the offsets in the contract so that he can stick it to Cleveland. But I mean, if you're a Browns fan, you shouldn't care. Like you got your guy, it's the other guy. Who cares? Just let him go, move on, and be done with it. I know what they're trying to do. And I get it. And you want to maximize your hand and try to get the maximum assets you can back for the guy. I totally get it. But if you're Andrew Berry in this case, don't overplay your hand, dude. At the end of the day, like when it gets down to it, you can't have that kind of toxicity in the, you've already got the PR nightmare with Watson. You can't have a Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson in the same locker room, media controversy. Like sports talk radio guy will melt down in orgasm because of this. You know what I mean?
Colin Cowherd would have a field day. It would be really bad.
I'm not even a local guy. Like somewhere, like Tony Grossi already has the columns planned. I'm just saying.
Do you think he's on the team by training camp? Do you think?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'd be shocked if he was still on the team at the draft.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Connor, you can keep tweeting 4 p.m. every day.
dude, every day.
So, I mean, honestly, though, a Trubisky and Baker Mayfield QB room in Cleveland, who wins that starting job? Seriously.
Baker and who? At that point, it would be Baker Mayfield. I mean, it's Baker's much more talented than Mitchell Trubisky and Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph and whatever also Rans they also have in that room. So Pittsburgh apparently loves collecting first round quarterback busts.
Now, going back to the 2018 draft, the Browns are still haven't extended to Denzel Ward, and but we haven't seen any results. Have you heard anything on where the Browns currently stand on extending the Pro Bowl corner?
They'll extend him. It's just one of those things. Like right now, the corner market is actually soft in free agency. We see, like James Bradbury hasn't been traded, Gilmore hasn't signed. Like it's it's one of those things that it's been a really soft corner market. You saw a lot of guys take like 1 or 2 year deals, prove-it deals, because of the logjam at the top, because the guys were getting paid. So these guys just want to get their money and do a prove-it deal, and they'll hit the market again soon. So the corner market has been soft. So I think it's more on Ward, and I'm hoping somebody signs a big money deal to reset the market, so that they can come back to the Browns and say, okay, this is the market now. This is what we want, instead of having to sit with the current market as it is.
But is there a chance that if that is so high, that if someone resets the market and it's something exorbitant, is there a chance that the Browns could just look at the market and say, okay, we want to trade Denzel Ward and try to get some capital back to maybe build up our safety room or our secondary room again in the draft?
I mean, that's always a possibility, but I would just caution you with this. Finding corners is difficult. It's the most difficult position to find. That's why you saw 2 teams last year, Carolina and Denver, taking corners in the top 10. The Saints were trying to trade up there to get Pat Surtain in the top 10 as well. There's a shortage of corners in the league that can cover effectively. And when you get down to that second, third corner, it's a liability, right? Football's a game of matchups. You try to put your 3 best receivers out there, and you're betting your wide receiver 3 can beat their corner 3, right? So most teams these days are figuring out, hey, I've got to load up on corner. And there aren't enough corners to load up on corner. That's how you get starting corner Devontae Bosby at times. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things, and I lived through that, so I can make that joke. But like it's one of those things where you just got to find guys that are talented, and if you've got guys that are talented, you got to pay them. You got to find a way to pay them. The positions that you pay in the NFL are quarterback, edge rusher, tackle, and corner. That's what you pay. And then if you got like an elite interior gap penetrator like Donald, you pay him. But beyond that, like you pay those positions. Everybody else is a secondary consideration. So I would think that you would just pay Denzel Ward and you make cuts somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that answers a big debate on Brown's Twitter. That was in Spaces yesterday. That was a big conversation, is Denzel Ward. So it's good to know that
if you got a corner that's playing at a Pro Bowl level, pay him.
Exactly.
You have to. Love it.
I agree.
It's just, I mean, you cannot have enough corners.
Ben, one of the final questions here, because and that we did pick out a charity here. One of the final questions, if you had to rank, again, the draft's not done, but there have been a lot of additions to the AFC. How would you rank the teams in the AFC contenders, top 5?
Oh man, that's a tough question. It's such a stacked conference now.
Yeah.
I think Kansas City and Buffalo have to be in there by default, although Kansas City's defense is falling apart, man. I'm less bullish on them. I mean, you got Pat Mahomes, so you're going to be in every game, but still, I'm not as bullish on them. Tennessee's defense looks good. If they get Derrick Henry back and Tannehill returns to form, they could be good. I'm not sure about the Colts and Matt Ryan. A rumor is they're going to sign Julio, to kind of redo that, go from there. We'll see. But the Colts, they're going to have a pretty good defense. We'll see if the Matt Ryan thing works out. The AFC West is just I guess it's almost like a dice roll.
Bloodbath.
I don't think the Raiders are going to do anything. Kansas City's defense has fallen off. The Chargers have reloaded, but Chargers got a Charger and they have no offensive line. And then the Broncos, you add Russell Wilson to a team that had the number 3 defense last year. You got to figure that's worth something. So I think if you're looking for a top 5 in the AFC, Buffalo's got to be in there, probably number 1. After that, you're probably looking, put Denver in that mix somewhere, put Tennessee and Indy in that mix somewhere, put Cleveland in that mix somewhere. So that makes 5 right there. I'm not so keen on Baltimore. Cincinnati, I think, might go backwards a little bit just because I don't think people realized how good their defense actually was last year, and that carried them down the stretch. Yeah. Then Burrow hit that hot streak, right there toward the end of the season, so everybody's focused on that. But Cincinnati's defense carried them a large part of the season because that offensive line was just craptastic. So they've made some strong additions there. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see about that Cincinnati team.
Okay, awesome. Well, Ben, again, we appreciate your time, and the charity we found, it's Laura's Home Women's Crisis Center to help out women.
Email me the link. Email me the link. Laura's Hall Crisis Center. Okay, email me the link, and once I get that done this afternoon, I'll send you an email back with the receipt. You guys can post it with the promo for the podcast and all that kind of stuff, and that'll be charity number 4 out of 10. So,
all right,
cool.
Well, Ben,
thanks so much, Ben.
We really appreciate you keeping your word on this, and thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yep, thank you.
You have a good one, man.
Man, guys, so what do we want to really get into? I mean, Will Fuller's a lock.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that?
I think we all
you heard it here first.
I think we all kind of knew that. I think we all had an idea.
It's kind of with the talk of Jarvis, the Will Fuller kind of died off a little bit, not a ton, but I mean, because I've always thought we're really not going to bring back Jarvis and sign Will Fuller, are we?
Well, why not?
I don't think so. I
mean, I guess because it depends on how much Will Fuller is willing to take. Like, how much is he going to cost?
Well, here's the other thing with that too, Jack, is I still believe we're going to draft a wide receiver. I mean, you're bringing in those two, drafting a guy like we keeping 8 wide receivers because you're not cutting Schwartz. I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, God, that is actually hard thinking about it again.
Jack's. He's sticking with it, man.
Come on, Jack.
Sticking with it.
I have my Jarvis Landry jersey upstairs. I don't want it to be one of those other dead jerseys.
I have it on, dude.
Pain. I mean, we've heard that Will Fuller might happen like at OTA type deal, or like after OTAs. Like some of these older guys don't want to participate in that kind of stuff. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Clowney and Will Fuller came back after OTAs.
Guys, I do want to say I apologize we weren't able to get to some of your guys' questions. We had Ben for a half hour, so we wanted to get through our list if we could.
Our list lasted perfectly 30 minutes, so we
that's
apologize.
never happened before.
So wait, hold on. Our wide receiver room right now is Amari, DPJ, Jakeem Grant, Anthony Schwartz. Who else? Who am I forgetting? Who's in this wide receiver room?
You named the wide receiver.
That's it, all 4? Okay, so then what we get? Let's say we get Jarvis or Will Fuller, so that's 5, and then we draft 1 or 2, so that's 7, and then we cut 1.
I think you're keeping 7 wide receivers, especially with Watson.
This year.
With Watson, you're keeping 7.
Wait a minute.
I think if anything, you're not going to see 13 personnel. Like,
well, then it could just be that we get both of them and we only draft 1 wide receiver. Like they just trade up. They basically like trade a bunch of their later picks to go up and get a wide receiver like within like the first like 32 or something.
Maybe email Ben real quick.
Yeah, so and I guess Felton does kind of count as like a wide receiver.
So this like totally went over my head and it just popped back up. Baker wants to go to Pittsburgh.
That's what he said, dude. If he got cut, he does want to go to Pittsburgh because of course he does.
Yeah, he wants to go hang out with Mike Tomlin.
Send him to Pittsburgh, dude. Send him. I'm not worried about it. Send him.
I'm really not worried about that at all.
Not worried. Dude. Not worried.
I think what we have to say too, and it's going to disappoint some Browns fans, but Ben was blunt. Like as an NFL team, you don't want to be spending a ton of money in free agency.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to be making a lot of.
As a winning NFL team, you don't want to. Like look at the Jaguars. They had a lot of money to spend, and they spent it like on 4 wide receivers.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I know I talked about it earlier with you guys. You're paying Christian Kirk as a 1,000-yard wide receiver. Is he going to hit 1,000 yards this year?
He's never done it. He's never done it before.
Exactly. So Ben made some amazing points here today.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that was he gave us a lot of insight on stuff. It's like that part that you just brought up. Yeah, like the idea of you guys don't want to be spending a lot in free agency because that's what bad teams do. And I mean, I guess we don't really have a lot of holes other than we just need another wide receiver and an IDL. Like,
I have to admit, I was disappointed about Akeem Hicks. That was the guy I've wanted. Oh man.
Well, what are you gonna do?
Fit, man. Scheme fit. I didn't even think about that with Akeem Hicks.
I know. I just would love him. It also goes to show you can't trust everything you hear on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Plain guy.
unfortunately.
I'm gonna say it right now. You can't trust plain guy.
What are your guys' thoughts since we really might as well talk about for at least a minute here on getting Ethan Posick or whatever his name is from Seattle? Really cheap contract too.
I mean,
yeah,
he's
and we need
6'6", 310. That can play center and guard. That's big.
Exactly.
He's just more depth. You can never have enough depth on the offensive line in Cleveland because
and we proved that last year. We proved that last year.
Yeah, I definitely have concerns about left tackle going into the season. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well,
Left and right.
What, Jedrick?
Yeah.
I've been
no,
curious.
that's fair, dude.
I've been curious if they're gonna keep Jedrick there, or if they're gonna kind of try to see if they can move him around.
I think he's like the Greedy Williams of our offensive line.
Oh God.
Well, I mean,
Hey, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. I have a signed Greedy Williams jersey, man. I have a signed one. I'm gonna put it up on my wall next to my Jim Brown one. Don't talk shit about Greedy, man. Don't do it.
I like Greedy. I don't like Jed, but I like Greedy. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes he looks really good, and sometimes he looks absolutely terrible.
The one signed jersey, now that you mentioned that, Jack, the one signed jersey I had is by Mr. Rick Vaughn, Charlie Sheen from Major League.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, look, it's going to be an odd dichotomy because I have a signed Jim Brown jersey, but then it's going to be with my signed Greedy Williams jersey. I don't want to say that they're equitable, but
I mean, Zachary T100 brings up a good point. Could you get a top 15 pick and a second for Ward?
Yeah, you could.
You possibly could. I think Philadelphia would be interested, but I mean, like Ben said, it sounds like they're absolutely extending him.
I'm happy he said that too, because I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of that talk, dude.
It brings up good conversation, I'll say.
Yeah, but I don't like worrying about losing a Pro Bowl corner.
Yeah,
I don't either, man.
And I mean, the Browns still have a decent amount of cap space left, so I don't think that it's really that big of a deal. And plus, once they figure out what they're going to do with Baker, I think they're waiting out Baker to see how much he really cares about his contract. Because if anything, they're just going to say, "Give us some money back. Give us some money back, and we'll cut you." That way, like the cap is not as bad. I mean, because obviously he's not going to be on this team at the start, or if he is, because I was listening to Carmen this morning, and he was talking about
I'm sorry.
What's Baker going to do when he gets how is this whole thing going to get handled? Are they going to keep him? Are they going to tell him not to come? What are they going to do? And obviously Ben talked about it too. Just you don't want him, you don't want that drama filled nightmare of having him and Deshaun in the same training camp.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Jakeem Grant though, he is going to answer that earlier question. Eli, he is going to be playing wide receiver. You're gonna try and get him the ball in open space. I'll say this: Anthony Schwartz better have an amazing offseason because he'll get passed by quickly. Jakeem Grant can play. He in open space, man, can play. He's proven it.
Well, Jakeem Grant at least has a purpose. He's hey, if I'm not the wide receiver, at least I can return kicks very well. Anthony Schwartz has shown
that's something we were lacking too.
Yeah,
that's something we were lacking a lot too. Our special teams was
terrible. It was awful.
Yeah.
It was
DPJ should never return a punt or kick again. That's not saying he can't be a wide receiver.
That's what this is for.
Just do not be a return man.
That's what this is for.
Or Schwartz.
The Warden making a good point here. Stop trying to trade good players. Yep.
Look, we're not saying we want to do it. We're just saying that it's the possibility. It's a hypothetical question. Okay.
We had to bring it up because it seriously has been a topic all week in spaces. It has been a legit conversation. Every space I've been in, it's, are we extending Denzel Ward? If we don't, what would trade value be? I mean, Jack Duffin's proposed, realistic scenarios, in my opinion. It just clearly looks, it's a win-win situation. It seriously is a win-win situation, though. We forget. No, Jack,
calling out my jerseys. I bought this jersey before the playoff year, Jack. Okay.
Oh Jesus!
I'm keeping it when he comes back.
Oh man,
Jack, can you confirm this? Jack calls cookies biscuits. Can you confirm this for us, please?
Of course he does.
Yeah, of course he does. He lives over there, man. That's just how it is.
He's across the pond.
I know. Wow, people are coming for Jack now. Jack's sleeping his socks on.
Just for posting the hypothetical, man. This is.
Hey, I seriously thought it was an interesting conversation.
People are tagging our tweet right now about Ben Allbright to Ben Allbright. Just go watch the show, please.
That's literally all you have to do, man. It's right there for you.
Wait, what's happening?
I posted about like him saying Will Fuller was coming to gonna sign with the Browns. Didn't say when, but people like are quoting him in it. Like, dude, just go back and
They're
listen.
saying
to
April
the show.
Fools. No, everyone's saying April Fools.
You can just go watch.
Yeah, I did realize that today. Haven't been Allbright on April Fool's Day.
Yeah, Tyler, that was a really good deep fake. I gotta say, I don't know how you got that installed so quickly.
I really liked the Grossi reference. It was pretty funny.
Thanks, Derek. We appreciate it, man. Jack makes a good point here. Sheldon Richardson getting cut was hypothetical last offseason. Everyone disagreed with him on that. That's a good point.
Well, I don't understand why it even happened in the first place. It just I understand why they did it. They wanted to get him back on a cheaper contract, but God,
he didn't want to take a pay cut.
It sucked so much having him. But then he went to the Vikings and still made less money than we were offering him. I'm pretty sure, right? But he didn't. But he was pissed at the Browns at that point to where he wasn't coming back. Yeah,
he did that on purpose. So this is also true, Jack. Money is always about money. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But since we do have, a little bit of time here.
If I was Jarvis, I would take 3-year, $3 million. Just saying.
Dude, if I was Jarvis, I'd take $1 million. It's $1 million, dude. I'll never see that in my lifetime.
And you could come win a Super Bowl, bro.
Yeah, man. Well, you're not Jarvis, man.
Hey, I know. I said if.
No,
Jarvis knows he can make money. Jarvis
can make a payday, I feel like, for sure, yeah.
Zach, do you want to talk about the announcement this week on who we added to the network since we have some time?
Oh, yeah. We can all kind of chime in here. So, obviously, we started our network, our Faithful Dogs Network, and we added Brandon Wolf. He's going to bring his show over. Oh, man, my Wi-Fi is going out. Hopefully, it doesn't go out. We added Brandon Wolf. He's going to bring his show over. The Bark the Browns, and then we were in contact for a little while with Jacob Roach and Nick Carnes and Ed in Columbus. Shout out Ed in Columbus. And we're going to bring over the Bark and Brown show as well, and they're going to be live on our Twitch, we believe, Tuesday nights. And obviously, nothing's changing with them. They're going to keep their live Twitter. Everything's going to be run the same on their end, but they're joining the network, and definitely excited about the team. Definitely excited about the team we're building over here.
Yeah, dude. To get Nick and Jacob, getting everyone is huge, but Nick and Jacob, man, they've definitely had their show for over a year. It's gotten a good amount of Browns fans to tune in and excited to bring them aboard. Two awesome guys that put in a lot of time into what they do. Yep. Nick and the poems, too, that are just absolutely legendary.
And they're only going to get better. They're only going to get better. So
True. But this is an interesting point here. We can actually talk about this before we get off here. What do you guys think about building the dome?
Do it. It's
going to happen at some point.
Retractable roof.
It's gonna. The next stadium's gonna have a retractable.
It just
roof.
Makes sense.
There's been talk about this for a while now.
Yeah, because I think of all the events you can host in the city as well. It's not just about your team and for Watson. Let's talk about that. Let's be honest here.
Look, you invested $250 million into a guy. You should build him a freaking dome, please.
Yeah.
They
at home with Deshaun Watson. It's going to be a whole new
How the
stadium.
heck did the Buffalo Bills get a new stadium approved, and yet that one doesn't have a dome either?
They wanted it that way in Buffalo.
I know they want it that way, but it's like, guys, I understand that. I understand that the cold is like a benefit to some teams. And I'm sure the Browns fans, a lot of Browns fans will be like, dude, the cold is like part of the experience. The suffering is part of the experience. You get to get wind chill on your face. I love having 4 layers and still being cold. Like, I get it, and I understand that's like part of the competitive advantage. You know, you're at home and it's cold, so like other teams. I don't care. It's way too cold sometimes up on the lake. Please just at least make it so like half the games are freezing cold and the other half are less freezing cold. That would be better.
Someone just brought up Buffalo Stadium. Did you guys hear about that? How they're taking out like taxpayers' money and stuff?
Yeah, $850 million.
Yeah,
that's
how Buffalo's doing.
Yeah, that's what they. Yeah, a lot of stadium places do that. It's like
did Vegas do that? Like did
I'm sure LA did it.
Hell yeah.
That's normal, dude.
Like they do it all the time.
It's terrible.
Okay.
Honestly,
I don't think they did that for the Q, but because
Yeah, Rocket
Dan
Mortgage.
Gilbert-
You know,
'cause
Rocket
Dan-
Mortgage only sits like 19,000 people, dude.
it's like 21.
20,562.
Oh, that's what it is. I thought it was
Yes.
like 19,600 and some. But
No, it's
the Brown
20,562.
Stadium sits
Actually,
like
no, wait.
67.
They might have removed some. They might have removed some seats like a couple of years ago, but yeah, it was like 20,000.
Dude,
Damn.
you can the possibility of hosting the Final Four in a new Cleveland Brown Stadium.
Yeah.
With
would
WrestleMania, bro.
Yeah, everything,
WrestleMania
man.
seats like 80,000, like on average. So like I'm just saying that brings a lot of money to your city, dude.
Yeah, no doubt. Is there any other topics before we wrap it up? I mean, that was.
I want to tell Browns and Cavs 2018. He said, "How the bleep do I donate to you guys?" We have a Patreon right now. You can do that, or I mean, if you
Yeah.
want some merch, we got a merch on our website as well. So, I mean,
Speaking
obviously
of, we have to shout
we have
out
all
our
the links.
Cardiacs Kids Patreon members: Eli
Oh, yeah.
Osborne, Lori Casto, Don DeFranco, Ansley White, and Matt Robinson. So thanks to everyone who shows support on our Patreon. And be sure to join them for more content, giveaways, and more.
Thank you, Jack. That was
Yeah,
beautiful.
good job, Jack. Thank you. Normally we do
Wow.
that at the beginning of the show, but since Ben wasn't with us right away, I was very closely monitoring when he was joining, so we could get him in. So appreciate you doing that. The Warden,
What a
how
show,
can I
though.
be your friend? Well, there are a lot of ways. You
DM me
send
on
me $1
Twitter.
million check, I'll be your best friend for the rest of your life.
Wow, you're really
you
shallow,
go.
Zach. Or Tyler.
Me? What did I
Damn
do?
it.
Oh, I
God
was like,
damn it.
damn. What did I do?
You are really shallow, man.
So I mean, but any other like Browns topics you guys want to talk about, or
I mean,
are we
honestly, dude, that was a good show.
That was
a good
awesome.
show.
No, that was a really good show.
really good?
Super
Yeah,
awesome.
just wanted to see if there was any other things you guys wanted to hit on here.
Honestly, it's been so quiet in free agency the last couple of days. Like, it's
Yeah.
actually kind of weird.
Except Bobby.
Last
Wagner.
time
Except for Bobby
last-
Wagner.
yeah. The last time that happened, all of a sudden we traded for Deshaun Watson. So I'm not really worried about it.
Well,
And
no,
if you go look at
because
some of the timelines from like when we signed Miles and when we signed Nick Chubb, like I
Mhm.
think we signed Miles in like August, right, or something like that, or July, and we signed Nick Chubb in August or something. It was, you know,
well, Zach, I mean, just overall, it's quiet. Like, at least for the Deshaun Watson stuff, like that was right after Devontae got traded. So, like, it was.
next thing we know, Tyrann Mathieu is going to sign with the Browns.
Oh God.
Dude, why'd you say that? That would be amazing.
Yeah,
I would love it. He's not signing with Baltimore. It sounds like.
yeah, that was good news today.
And then
Unless it
he
was April
deleted the
Fools.
tweet.
I
He
can't
deleted
trust
the
anything.
tweet, though. Thank you, Jack.
Can't
This is
trust
a good
anything
point
today.
to end the show with here. Big extensions mid-July to first week of August. So keep
First
that in
one,
mind.
the first extension is gonna be Chief. It's gonna be Chief.
Well, his has to
It
be
could
done
be.
before July.
July
Like, before
15th,
mid-
right?
yeah,
Does it have?
before
Does it
middle
have
of
to be?
July.
Oh, okay. Yep. Well, that's when it's gonna be. Like 11:59
July
on
14th.
July 14th.
Chief. You heard it
Chief,
first.
Chief.
And then Denzel.
And then Denzel, like 1 minute after.
I want to remind
Our
everybody to go follow our new network Twitter account. It's just at FD Network CLE. Please go follow us on there. Also, our Patreon, like we mentioned earlier, is now available. If you guys would like to donate to the show or become a member of the Cardiac Kids, exclusive content for you guys on there. And brand new, thanks to DF Sports, our man Derek, who is now a member of the Faithful Dogs Network. He just created a brand new YouTube channel for us. In the coming weeks, there is going to be content on YouTube, and we're going to start soon, hopefully, uploading our shows to YouTube as well. So you guys feel free to check that out. Remember, we are also available on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The show itself is at FD Podcast CLE. We want to thank all you guys for tuning into the Faithful Dogs podcast, and a special shout out to NFL insider Benjamin Allbright for joining us. We'll talk to you all soon, and go Browns.